Hello, Blade fans. Warren Blade here. Today I was going to do a video about whether ZT knives are overpriced, but instead of doing that, I'm going to do something I noticed when I was on their website, which is their website really hasn't been updated a lot. And while that might mean nothing, I generally find that an online presence for a company is one of their strongest ways to market to the consumer. And when that starts to slip, it just makes you question whether they're struggling as a company. So I went through their website and posed the question to myself so that I could investigate it. Is ZT struggling as a company? And I think the answer to that is actually yes. Now, I'm not saying ZT is, going to go out of business anytime soon. I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think they're doing business as strongly as they were, say, in 2013 or 2014. And perhaps some of that is related to the economy. Perhaps some of that is related to the fact that Trump won the election and Hillary didn't. And I know there were some fears that Hillary Clinton would have done some things politically that would have affected firearms and, by extension, possibly knives. So maybe that's a reason why they're not selling them as much as they are. Or it could be just the market. People were buying things up in 2014 and 2013, these Hinderer knives, and when you couldn't get ZTs, maybe that's why they're not selling as well. It could have nothing to do with American politics whatsoever. So that's always an option. But going back to the website, some things I've noticed are, if you look at their current products, like what's currently for sale there, I've noticed that, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to cut up some jeans just so you have a visual while I'm talking here. I've noticed that a lot of the knives, when you click the tab that says knives, are discontinued models, like the one I'm using now, the 909. And I find that unusual because any other company, it would either have a special tab for, say, discontinued knives, or it wouldn't be, more misleading like the ZT website is, where you have things that aren't being produced anymore that they might not even have in stock, saying they're in stock or up there with models that they're currently producing. So I think that part of the website is certainly in need of updating. And it's interesting that they haven't changed it to reflect the discontinued models, or even put anything on the individual entries when you click them about these knives being discontinued. So that's one thing. I've also noticed if you click the part of their website that's like their press section, the press entries are older, and if you click the blog entries, the latest blog entry is from May. So we're in October now. There's no new blog entry from ZT. I mean, a blog isn't even something that you'd really have to put, say, a ton of money into as a company. You could just have an employee type something up every 2 weeks and stick it on there. I'm sure Spyderco or Benchmade, would not have any kind of problem doing that. So I found that telling that the latest blog entry was from, what was it, May 22nd, I think. Then if you go down to the testimonial section of the page, there's a bunch of testimonials and you have to click through them, but I've noticed that if I'm reading through the testimonials, the most recent model mentioned is the 801. There's nothing more recent than that, so they're not talking about the 909s, they're not talking about the 850s, they're not talking about the 920s, the 0055, any of the new stuff. It's all, the 350, it's the 300. Some of the entries mentioned the 550 and the 560 series knives, which, other than the 562 Hinderers, those are all discontinued. So these are older entries. And while that wouldn't necessarily be unusual if people were, mentioning knives they had and really liked, it's just kind of odd that there's no new models mentioned there. I've also noticed that the website format really hasn't changed either, so it's not something they've really updated as a whole. And it to me, I think ZT is in some trouble. And if we're going to talk about the company too, we can talk about some stuff that I talked about in my other video about the 909 being discontinued. And that's the fact that ZT seems to be having an identity crisis. They're not really sure if they want to be this bold, real beast, proudly overbuilt company, or if they want to be more of an artsy knife company making things like the 999, which I have a few pictures of it. It's, in my opinion, one of the ugliest ZTs ever made. I know people paid like $800 for these things. I just don't get that. And there's a battle this company seems to be having, and it makes me wonder, is this battle because they really want to make these weird looking knives, or is it because they're just not selling some of the stuff they really paid a lot of money to develop? Like ZT, perhaps one of the reasons they're struggling is the fact that each one of these knives they've really put out has been by a major designer. It's not really, the people at ZT in their back room, the designers making these knives. It's, they got Sinkovich, or they got Hinderer, or they got Les George, or they got RJ Martin, or they got any number of knife makers to make a production folder, which is really cool. But each time you're doing that, you're probably paying these people a small fortune. And when your company is not necessarily doing well, or the buying has dropped off the map because, political or social or economic changes have affected it, or people just have enough, you're going to have to account for that with your, financial charts or your whatever they're accounting that they spent all that money on paying these designers, and now they have these items that not only are they sitting supposedly, but they're discontinuing things. I just don't understand why you'd sink, say, thousands of dollars into paying Les George to build this knife, and then you discontinue it a year later. So ZT, I think, is really struggling as a company. I'm sure there's people there that know a lot more as to why this is going on, but these are just some of my observations as a layperson, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. ZT's been one of my favorite companies. I think that this particular knife is one of the closest knives to tactical hard use perfection I think you could make as a knife company. But if they keep going in the direction they're going, I'm really going to see myself carrying Emerson's way more than I already do. So, I want ZT to stay up there in my top three, which top three personally with me is Emerson, ZT, and Case. But if they really go down the wrong road, that's going to change. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what you think's going on at ZT. And if I find anything else out, I'll put it out in another video. So until then, thanks for watching. And if you get a chance, subscribe for more great content. Thank you.